Welcome back to Girls on Deck. We have a great show for you today, talking about NFL and MLB. My name is Hannah Jo Groves, and I'm joined in the studio today by my wonderful co-host Kayla Burge, as well as Sam Sullivan and Jeff Laux. We have a great show for you. Can't wait. Here's Girls on Deck.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated chance, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back. Okay, always locked in, now I don't got time to lax. Saying he the best, he could take a lap. Batted 1,000 when you check the stats. Boy, is you ready? You ain't gotta ask.
It was a crazy week 2 in the NFL this week with some close games and a shutout, but I want to dive it right into the Ravens versus Chiefs on Sunday night, 36-35, Lamar flipping into the end zone. Hannah Jo, I'm going to throw it to you. What did you think of the game as a whole?
Yeah, it's two of the most entertaining quarterbacks in football from my perspective. I mean, of course, I told you last week that I was going to be torn about this one. I love Patrick Mahomes, of course, but Lamar Jackson is my fantasy quarterback. So I was interested to see how it would turn out, and I gotta say, I'm happy with Lamar. Even though he threw those 2 picks, I feel like he didn't let it get to his head. He still played a great game. Now, I want to go to our special guest that we have here today, Jeff Laux. I want to ask you, what did you think about us seeing a ton of Lamar still on his feet? Does that make you nervous for the future of their season?
It doesn't make me nervous at all because this is the Ravens' identity and it's going to always be their identity to run the football. I mean, replacing their 2 or 3 injured running backs, Latavius Murray, Le'Veon Bell, Tyson Williams, and they're all running great at this moment. And there's really no complaints. That's the complaint that you have to throw back at the Chiefs, is that they're not running the ball well enough. With, Edwards-Helaire being a top draft pick and him expecting to come in and be that type of 1-2 role with Patrick Mahomes, you haven't really seen that. And now coming into this game, Lamar was 0-3. Now he's 1-3 against Patrick Mahomes. So I guess it's something to see for the future.
Yeah, definitely. I think we saw a lot of great things from the Ravens. They didn't let the interceptions get in their heads. They were able to stay calm under that pressure. I feel like Patrick Mahomes, he was relying a little too much on Edwards-Helaire. What did you feel like about that?
I mean, Edwards-Helaire is expected to do a lot just because of his high pedigree and what he came into the league being known for. He's supposed to be able to catch, run, and all of the above. But right now, Patrick Mahomes looks like he's the one-man show with Kelsey, and even Hill didn't play that well last night. Hill showed out during the Browns game, but now it's just Kelsey that's providing for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Right. Okay. So I also want to ask you, do you feel like the Ravens have made the best of their situation with 15 players on injury reserve at this point?
Oh, 100%. I mean, Harbaugh has played it to the best of his ability currently. And right now, I believe that the Ravens are the best team in the AFC North, and they've shown that they can do it on the ground. They can do it, over the air with Lamar Jackson's great throwing ability. There's a lot of just great abilities that the Ravens have, especially with their defense. Their defense is not even talked about. Patrick Queen is playing out of his mind. I know Marlon Humphrey's dealing with injuries, but he's been playing out of his mind. So there's a lot of positives for the Ravens heading into Week 3.
Absolutely. Well, and we will go into talking about Ravens and Raiders, but I actually want to move into my other team that I've got, and that is the Broncos versus Jags. Jeff, I feel like Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer still have a lot to learn, if I'm being honest. It seems like they're still playing that college ball, trying to make those huge throws down the field instead of just getting the first down sometimes. What do you think Trevor still has to learn in this game?
Trevor has a lot to learn, and it's not going to be from Urban Meyer. It's going to be from the harsh season that he has ahead of him, because his schedule doesn't get easier. It's not like Houston Texans are a bottom 30 team. The Houston Texans beat the living crap out of them.
That's
in
okay.
Week 1. But then Week 2, Houston went and played Cleveland really well, and now it's like, now that's 0-2. Now I'm 0-6 in my own division. The Jags are expected to be somewhat competitive. But Trevor Lawrence has not looked the part, and I put full blame on Urban Meyer for not even sticking up for his team. He's very college-oriented still. He still seems like he's back at the UF days where he still wants to put blame on other people besides himself for those type of losses.
Absolutely. Well, I gotta ask, is this what you were expecting from this duo, Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence?
No, not at all. I came in as a very big fond fan of Urban Meyer, and I thought he was going to do well, but now you see that he hasn't translated well. All of his skills have not translated at all from Ohio State to Jacksonville. It doesn't seem like he can rally the team. You know, Travis Etienne is injured. James Robinson's not playing well right now. It seems like a lot of dysfunction on the team. There's weapons for Trevor Lawrence to throw to, but I just think the coaching is going to overall impact Trevor's career, and hopefully he can get out of the Jacksonville Jaguars, or hopefully Urban Meyer, leaves soon for USC.
I think definitely, I agree. I think the Jags have a lot of growing to do. But Hannah, I have to throw it to you as a Broncos fan. What did you think of their performance yesterday?
I was stunned. I loved every second of it. I'm calling him now my steady Teddy. Just able to, under the pressure of the Jags defense, his line was protecting him, but even when there was that pressure creeping in, he was able to get his feet set, throw a touchdown pass, throw down the field, get to his guy, and that is why I love Teddy, and that's why I'm very firm in my decision that I think he's still way better than Drew Lock. I'm sorry, I like Drew, but this is a way better decision for us as a franchise, and I'm looking forward to. Don't let me forget about Javonte Williams. He was so impressive this whole time, just pushing, running through, no matter what circumstances were ahead of him. He was amazing. I was super impressed with him last night. Jeff, were you watching him? How'd you feel about him?
Oh my goodness, he looks like he's back as the North Carolina days. He looks like that Tar Heel that was tearing through ACC defenses throughout these past couple of years. And John Elway, like you're saying, John Elway has found his man in Teddy Bridgewater. He's looked so far and abroad. Paxton Lynch's, the Drew Locks, the Brock Osweilers. Now he has Teddy Bridgewater playing lights out. He's being efficient. He's not turning over the ball too much. He's playing perfect with the type of weapons he has, even though Judy's out for the season. To be a Broncos fan, I bet you're super excited, Hannah.
Oh, I definitely am excited. Kayla, did you see anything in this game that stood out to you?
No, what stood out to me was the lack of playing from the Jags. I think, I was watching it and I was just embarrassed for Trevor Lawrence. I kind of felt for him. He has a lot of growing to do. It's a lot of interceptions, sacks. It's just, he looked uncomfortable. It looked out of place there, which is not what you want as a Jags fan. So I think he has a lot of growing to do. I agree with what Jeff said. He's going to learn this season, so we'll have to see.
Absolutely. Well, so going back to the Ravens, we saw them play a week ago today in Monday Night Football, and the Raiders actually took that game in overtime. It was kind of a scramble, back and forth, crazy, what makes football great, actually. But speaking of that overtime, Russell Wilson was actually on what is called the Manning cast for Monday Night Football, and he came up with this great idea for overtime. Kayla, can you explain to us what his idea was for how this should be handled?
Yeah, so essentially he said it'll come down to a field goal. Now, after the 10 minutes, if it's still tied, whereas it usually would be, the game would end. But it would come down now to a coin toss. Whoever gets the coin toss decides if they want to kick or if the other team wants to kick from the 35-yard line. Now, whoever wins that, or if they miss the kick, the other team wins. If they get it, they win. So I think it's a genius idea. Makes it a little exciting, kind of ends that tie in football. But Hannah, what do you think of it?
Yeah, essentially, you're kicking, it would be snapped from the 35-yard line. It's like a 53-yard field goal. If you have faith in your team that they can make that and your kicker, great, send them out there. If you're like, but I don't think your kicker can do it, you send the other team out there. I think it puts a lot of pressure on the kicker, but I don't think there's any problem with that. This is not a scenario that we see super often. It would happen, if we go by last year, maybe 4 times a year, 4 times a season. Jeff, what do you think about this overtime proposal?
Of course, Russell Wilson would be the one to do it. He has Jason Myers, an automatic kicker in Seattle, and overall, the pressure on kickers is going to be, something huge if this rule actually comes into place. It's just the talent disparity in the league between kickers is like you have the top shelf, you have like the mid, and then you have like the full bottom. And right now, it just seems like that rule would be too out of touch, and the scouting departments and other NFL teams are going to have to take a better job into looking in better kickers. But anyways, we're going to switch over to commercial break, and we will be back with MLB baseball.
Oh, it keeps coming back. We're gonna need to go away. Welcome to the HTF Hot Wings Challenge. One of you guys actually do hot sauce like regularly?
No.
No. It's like the least black thing I do.
Oh, wow, okay.
I say Johnny goes first on this one.
I agree.
No, the Buccaneers are going to play the Washington football team.
That can't happen.
It will happen.
I'm terrified.
No, I really hate it.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes. No. You're wrong. If it wasn't for Kanye jumping up on stage and doing that, I'm gonna let you finish, but no one would know what it was.
Nitros, dump truck. And if you don't know what I'm talking about,
Why is Nitro thick?
I don't know how many squats I need to do to get up like something like that, but I will do it.
Oh! Oh my God!
Baseball, obvious reasons. Babe Ruth, if you want to go currently. I feel like that's just like a thing.
he jumped off the wall to catch the home run. We made it through all the way to the end. Thank you for joining us.
I'm never doing this again.
It was rough.
And we're back with Sam Sullivan, here to talk some MLB. Now, this is Sam's first time on Girls on Deck, so I have to ask you, how are you feeling today?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be along you as well as Hannah Jo Groves, and it's just gonna be a fun talk.
Awesome, yeah. So things are heating up, as we enter this postseason in the MLB, and we saw that this last Saturday with at the Padres and Cardinals games, where we saw Manny Machado kind of get into Fernando Tatis Jr.'s face. Now, what did you think of that whole ordeal, Sam?
I just thought it was a little bit of Manny Machado just trying to calm down the team, especially Fernando Tatis. It's a team game, and from the little bits and pieces that you can hear from that audio, it just sounded like Tatis felt like he was bigger than the rest of the team, and Machado saying, listen, it's not all about you. And Machado, that takes a lot coming from him, especially back in Baltimore, where he thought he was the man, and had a little bit of dirty moments over time. But it's a very leadership type of role that Machado's taking in San Diego, and he just wants to put this team in the right direction, go into the postseason, and not have any sort of beef or any sort of issues going on. They need to win, and they have a tough battle ahead.
Yeah, I have to agree. Machado isn't exactly the person I thought to put someone's ego in check. Let's just say that. Yeah. So it was surprising, and the Padres are losing. The Padres were supposed to be head-to-head against the Dodgers this season, and now they're falling out completely. So tensions are high on the team. I kind of understand the frustration.
Yeah, well, there's another reason that tensions are kind of high right now, and I actually learned this week, which I'm sure the two of you know, but the baseball, MLB, is the only league in North America to not have a salary cap. And so let me read this so I get this correctly. So the current collective bargaining agreement between MLB and the Players Association, it expires this offseason. And MLB proposed a salary minimum of $100 million per team. And it doesn't seem like players will be super excited about that. They'd rather have that threshold being raised instead of lowered. But currently there are 3 luxury tax tiers. And first tier, you get 20% tax, and it just gets steeper as the salary gets higher. And so now they're kind of proposing a salary cap. How would that change the game as a whole? Kayla, I gotta ask you.
I mean, it would be huge for baseball. This is something that, it's always kind of been an issue. You have the Dodgers who spend upwards of $200 million on their team, and then you have the Marlins who spend less than $100 million. So it's kind of like a very large gap. You have players like Giancarlo Stanton getting millions and millions of dollars per year, and then you have maybe equally as good players, if not maybe just slightly worse, making much less. So the gap is way too wide, in my opinion. I agree with the salary cap. I think it'll make it a more even playing field across the board in baseball, instead of having these teams like the Yankees and the Dodgers who are big spenders that will continue to stack onto their teams. I think it'll kind of even out across the board. But Sam, I have to ask what your opinion is on this.
Yeah, I definitely think that there should be a salary set in place. $100 million might be a little bit too low, especially because of how long a season is. But you refer back to the Dodgers and the Marlins. I mean, the Dodgers have $267 million in their payroll, and the Marlins have under $60 million. Their highest paid player is Miguel Rojas for the Marlins, $10.25 million contract. And then you look over to the Dodgers, Trevor Bauer, with over $100 million contract. He's getting paid $40 million a year. So it's just something that needs to be slimmed down, something that needs to be evened out a little bit more. And when you look at the pros of this, you look at how organizations who bring in more money generate more revenue, whether it be ticket sales or just brands coming in to sponsor them, they get to take advantage of that. And especially in a big city like LA, it's good for them. They get to bring in all these players, Max Scherzer, Trey Turner, and go into a deep run and, look to win back-to-back championships. And then you look at teams like the Marlins, who Miami is a big city, and they bring in a ton of money, but that Miami Marlins organization just has not been right as of the past 5, 6, 7 years. And it's something that definitely needs to be trimmed together. And I definitely think that a salary should be set in place, but $100 million just might be a little bit too low.
Yeah, I agree. And I want to know because, like you said, Miami is a team that hasn't done that. Dodgers are the team that have done that. So what do you think, though, of the players' kind of disagreement with this? Why do you think they disagree with this?
It's a business, and I think there's just a lot of money involved, and people don't want to be trimmed out of money that they've gotten this entire time. It's going to be a tough transition if it's made, and teams don't want to be able to deal with players who just want to feel like they deserve more money, and they're just so used to it. It's the norm, and people don't like to change from the norm. And the norm is to get big money, get these long, massive contracts. And if there was a salary cap set in place, I don't believe we're going to be seeing these 10, 12, 15-year long contracts. It's going to be cut to more of like a 7, maximum 5-year contracts. And it's to me, I think it's something that a salary should be set in place. But players, of course, are going to have their disagreements, and it's something that's definitely going to need to be settled.
Right, and I can't help but agree. I think long-term contracts in baseball are kind of silly to me. That's why this whole thing, I kind of agree with the salary cap, because I think you're putting too much. How do you know a player's going to be good for a whole 13 years in their contract? Giancarlo Stanton, great player. I don't think he's still worth what he was when he first signed that contract. So I think, kind of limiting it to that makes it a little more interesting. Again, overall kind of evens the playing field. And baseball is a very traditional sport. I know you said they don't like a lot of change, which is something that I think they realize they kind of have to get used to compete with these other sports that are generating, the NFL, the NBA have a lot of these younger markets, and I think the MLB is trying to get that. So I think overall it just would be beneficial to the sport in general.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that was my thought too, is this too far gone at this point? Baseball's been around for literally ever, it seems like. And we've made it this far without a salary cap. And it's kind of like, can you put the thing back in the box at this point? That's the question I have. And as you guys are saying, it's going to be really difficult if it does happen. But I do agree that it seems pretty reasonable. I mean, Sam, do you feel like it is absolutely out of the question, or do you feel like this is a change we could be seeing as soon as next season?
As soon as next season might be a little bit tough, but I do see somewhere within these next 5 to 10 years that this is a change that should be made, and in my opinion needs to be made. You're letting these players go on to these, like we mentioned, 10, 12, 15-year contracts, and you see in other sports they get 3 to 5 year contracts. You have to prove your worth. Baseball should not be an exception to that. You have to be able to show, if you could last 3 to 5 years, or you're going to be able to last the rest of those 10 years that are left on your contract. It's something that needs to be implemented, in my opinion, and should be done very soon.
Absolutely. And, I think, like you said, we'll probably be seeing it within the next 5 to 10 years. Now, before we kind of wrap up this segment, I've said my playoff predictions, my World Series predictions, but Sam, I haven't had a chance to ask you, what are your big predictions for the season?
As a Yankees fan, this is going to be pretty tough for me to say. I just feel like the Red Sox are the most equipped to take it in the AL and go all the way to the World Series. The Dodgers, to me, in the NL I just feel like they're untouchable. The Brewers could have a chance to take it away from them to go to the World Series, but I see it being a Dodgers-Red Sox matchup. Who wins that? I'll let you guys decide.
Oh, wow. What do you think about that one, Kayla?
I don't know. You don't. So what do you think of the Rays? That was kind of the big prediction for the longest time. Do you think they still have a chance to kind of get back there?
It's potential. I just feel like they're a little bit shaky right now, and they're shaky in a part of the season where they shouldn't be. They were so strong in the first 2-3 months of this season, and then as of late, it's been a little bit back and forth. Losing series against the Detroit Tigers is something that you really don't want to see. And the Red Sox, they just got that. They have a steady growth right now, and they're a team that is to be reckoned with, and especially a threat to that, not only to their division but the entire league in general. So I really do see it as a Red Sox-Dodgers World Series.
Okay, so Sam, you're a Yankees fan. Kayla, am I correct in thinking are you a Dodgers fan?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, So you must be pretty enthused hearing that the Dodgers could be in the World Series.
Oh, yeah, I think absolutely, especially coming off after last season, you know, when everyone thinks that because it was a shortened season, that's the only way they made it to the World Series. I would love for them to come back and be like, everyone shut up. We're still that team. We still have it in us. We still can do it. So, I also agree. I think the Dodgers could take it. You know, they just have to keep up on their momentum. That's something I worry for them, that sometimes they kind of feel like get in their own heads and kind of fall short. But I could potentially see a Dodgers-Red Sox matchup. I wouldn't be opposed to a rematch, though. I think it'd be fun.
Interesting. All right, and for everyone wondering out there what fan I am, I'm not super into baseball, but my grandmother is, and I'm a Denver Broncos fan, and I'm a Colorado Rockies fan.
She sticks to Colorado.
Exactly. That's where my family is from. So, so that, I think, is all the time we have for our show today. Kayla, anything else to add for us before we wrap up MLB?
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Sam, for being here. Thank you, Hannah, for another great show today. I'm excited for the MLB postseason, excited for NFL Week 3, and next week we will be here more to talk about that.
See you guys next week.